take a breath. Just stop for a moment before you keep scrolling. If you found this today, it was not random. It was not a mistake. Something inside you was searching, and somehow this message found its way to you. So stay with me for a minute. Think about that person right now. Let their face rise in your mind and notice what happens in your body when it does. That pull in your chest, that strange mix of warmth, ache, and hope. That is not confusion. That is your heart sensing something your mind is still trying to explain. Because this person is not just someone who passed through your life by accident. On a deeper level, something in you already knows them. And I know how tiring it is to carry feelings this strong while everything around them feels unclear. All those nights you stayed quiet with it, wondering if you imagined too much, wondering if any of it meant anything at all. It means something. You are not foolish. You are not too much. You are standing inside something that may shape your whole life, and that is exactly why it feels so heavy. Listen closely, because this part matters. The deepest connections do not only touch the surface. They reach straight into the hidden rooms inside us, the places we spent years trying to protect, control, or survive. Many people think love should arrive like comfort, like calm after a long, hard storm. But the kind of connection that changes your life often enters like a storm first, before it ever becomes peace. It shakes loose old pain, old fear, old pride, old walls, and old ways of coping. At first, that shaking can feel more like breaking than healing, but sometimes what feels like breaking is really the start of becoming. So do not rush away from this feeling yet. Stay with me. There is more here than you think. When someone comes into your life and reaches places no one else could reach, the defenses you built stop working the way they used to. The person who spent years giving too much starts seeing how tired they are from always proving their worth. They begin to notice how often they left themselves behind just to keep love from fading. They start asking why they believed closeness had to be earned through sacrifice, patience, emotional labor, or endless understanding. And that hurts because it means facing the painful idea that somewhere along the way they were taught that simply being who they are was not enough to be loved. At the same time, the other person may be facing something just as frightening. They may see that they have spent years surviving by staying guarded, distant, or hard to fully reach. Not because they do not care, but because deep closeness once became linked to pain, loss, rejection, or betrayal. So even when something real shows up in front of them, their nervous system reads intimacy as danger. Every strong feeling wakes up both desire and panic. Every vulnerable moment feels like standing too close to the edge of something they cannot control. They pull back not because the bond means nothing, but because it means too much. And for someone used to self-protection, that intensity can feel impossible to hold. That is why these connections become so confusing. On the surface, it looks like one person loves more while the other pulls away. One reaches, one retreats, one tries to hold the bond together, while the other seems unsure or overwhelmed. But under all of that is usually something much deeper than mismatch. It is often two hurt systems reacting in different ways to the same fear. Fear of being left, fear of being consumed, fear of not being enough, fear of being hurt again. And if you have lived inside that pain, then you already know how real it feels. The one who moves toward closeness often believes love will disappear unless they work non-stop to keep it alive. Silence feels unbearable to them. Distance feels dangerous. Uncertainty feels like emotional hunger. So they try harder. They explain more. They give more. They wait longer. They hope that if they love well enough, the other person will finally feel safe enough to stay present. But sooner or later, they have to learn something hard. Love cannot grow where self-betrayal becomes the price of connection. They have to learn that their value is not measured by how much pain they can carry for somebody else. And the one who steps back often carries the opposite wound. Deep inside is the belief that if someone gets too close, they will lose themselves, fail the other person, or get trapped in feelings they cannot manage. So they create space without even meaning to. The moment things become real, they pull away. Yet that distance rarely gives them peace. It usually brings guilt, loneliness, confusion, and a deeper sense of how much they actually care. Because hiding from vulnerability may protect them from rejection for a while, but it also blocks the very love they secretly want. Healing almost never looks graceful at first. Sometimes it looks like mixed signals. Sometimes it looks like fear, silence, emotional overload, or long stretches where someone is trying to understand their own heart. Growth is messy before it becomes wise. Think about that for a second. The old version of you cannot walk into a deeper kind of love unchanged. Something outdated has to fall away first. Old identities, old defenses, old beliefs. That is why this can feel unbearable. These bonds reveal a painful truth. We can deeply want intimacy and still be scared of it at the same time. And that is where the real shift begins. Not when the other person finally says the perfect words, not when timing suddenly becomes easy, but when something inside you starts to wake up. Here is the part many people miss, and I need you to hear it clearly. In bonds like this, there comes a turning point. It usually does not arrive through drama. It does not come with a perfect conversation or a big confession. It comes quietly, through a choice you make inside yourself. The choice to stop living in the wait to be chosen, and to begin truly choosing yourself. That choice changes more than people realize, not because life is magic, but because the energy you bring into a connection matters. When you stop reaching from fear, from emptiness, from need, you stop becoming someone the other person unconsciously feels pressure to escape. And for maybe the first time, they are left alone with what they really feel. Not just what they fear, not just what they avoid. What is actually there, and what is there may be stronger than you know. Stay with me here, because this is important. Everything you have gone through in this waiting has meant something. None of it was wasted. I know there were moments when it felt pointless. Moments when you looked back at all the love you poured out and wondered if it simply disappeared. But love does not vanish into empty space. It leaves marks. Every quiet night you spent carrying feelings that had no clear place to go. That love was doing something. It was shaping you. It was deepening you. It was preparing your heart to hold something rare when it is finally able to arrive in full. And every time you cried because you could not understand why something that felt so right was causing so much pain, that was not weakness. Hear that again. That was not weakness. Those tears were your heart refusing to walk away from something it felt was meaningful. That is not fragility. That is devotion. That is courage. And not everyone has the strength to remain open when nothing feels certain. A lot of people, when things get this confusing and hard, find a reason to shut the door. They protect themselves by deciding it no longer matters before the pain goes any deeper. And that is human. It makes sense. But you did not do that. You kept feeling. You kept caring. You kept holding space in your heart for something, even when the outside world gave you every reason to pull back. Think about how easy it would have been to go numb, to decide that loving this deeply was a mistake, that it cost more than it gave, that the safest move was to build a wall and stop letting anything in. You could have done that. Many people do. They get hurt enough times, left waiting long enough, or confused one too many times, and eventually something inside them goes silent. They become unavailable to this kind of love because they decide, without always saying it out loud, that the price is too high. And honestly, no one would have blamed you if you had made that choice too. But you did not. You stayed soft when hardening would have been easier. You stayed open when shutting down would have felt safer. And in a world that often rewards people for being detached, guarded, and hard to read, that is not a small thing. That softness is not the weak spot in you. It is part of your strength. It is the kind of strength many people never build. The ability to love fully without turning cold. The ability to care deeply without losing the meaning of care. That matters more than you know. Because surface connections are easy. Almost anyone can be present when life feels light and simple. But to hold love through confusion, through distance, through long seasons where nothing is clear, and to do it without becoming bitter, that takes something real, something that cannot be faked. And you have it. Do not overlook that. It may be one of the most important things about you. It may be the very quality guiding you toward the kind of love that does not keep you off balance forever, always guessing, always shrinking, always afraid. You are not moving toward a love that leaves you constantly reading between the lines. You are not meant for a bond where you have to make yourself smaller just to fit inside its limits. You are moving towards something that fits your full heart. Something that does not ask you to dim your feelings or manage yourself down so someone else can stay comfortable. A love that feels like a deep breath after carrying tension too long. And no, that is not just a pretty thought. It becomes real when you do the next part honestly. So what does that look like? What do you actually do now, today, tomorrow, and in the days after that? Here is the hardest part, and I will not make it sound easier than it is. You turn back toward yourself on purpose. Not as a performance, not to make anyone jealous, not to act like you moved on when you did not, not as a hidden strategy. You do it for real. You take the energy you have been pouring outward and slowly bring it home. You start asking a question you may not have asked in a long time. What do I need right now? Not what do they need? Not what can I say to fix this? Not what version of me would finally make them stay? What do I need? What would help me breathe easier today? What have I neglected in my own life while staring at what feels just out of reach? Then you begin to fill those places. You start saying yes to yourself with at least some of the energy you have been giving away to everyone else. The things you delayed because you were waiting for life to feel settled first, you begin some of them now. The friendships you let fade while your emotional world was tied up in this, you reach back toward them. The parts of yourself you placed on a shelf because this one story took over everything, you take them down and bring them back to life. This does not mean the love was fake. It means your life is allowed to become whole again. This is not about pretending your feelings are gone. It is not about forcing your heart to shut down or acting like none of this mattered. It is about making your world bigger again. It is about refusing to live inside a tiny room built around one person and one uncertain outcome. And when you really start doing that, something changes in the way you carry yourself. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not happen overnight, but it is real. You stop feeling like half a story waiting for someone else to finish the sentence. You stop living as if your life cannot fully begin until this one connection becomes clear. You begin to feel like a whole person again, someone with motion, color, dignity, and direction, no matter what any one relationship is doing at the moment. And that grounded feeling changes your presence. People can sense it, even if they cannot explain it. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is at home in themselves, a person who is no longer reaching from lack, a person who has stopped chasing and started standing. That kind of energy draws things in. And yes, the person you have been loving will likely feel it too, maybe more than anyone else. They will feel the shift. This is not a trick. Let me say that again. This is not a trick. It is not a technique to force some outcome. It is simply what happens when someone stops relating from emptiness and begins relating from fullness. The whole space between two people starts to breathe differently. Then there is finally room for something honest to happen. And now I want to say something that may help you soften your view of them. They are not the villain in this story. I know there were moments when the hurt made it tempting to see them that way. Moments when the distance, silence, or inconsistency made you want a simple story with a clear person to blame. But what looks like indifference is often more complex. Sometimes it is fear wearing the mask of distance. They are not necessarily cold. They are not necessarily untouched by what this connection is. Often what you are reading as distance is a person managing a fear that began long before you ever appeared in their life. Somewhere in their past, love became linked to danger, maybe to disappointment, maybe to rejection, maybe to loss, maybe to pain that arrived when they were too young to understand it. People do not choose those patterns in a conscious way. They are shaped by them. So when someone real gets close, they do not always move toward it. Sometimes they panic, sometimes they stall. Sometimes they disappear into their own confusion because old pain gets louder than present truth. That does not make their behavior easy, but it does make it human. And yes, when life gets quiet enough, they think about you. In the spaces between distractions, when they can no longer outrun themselves, you are there. They feel the missing energy. They feel the gap. Even if they created the distance, the absence still speaks to them, because what they feel is not only about contact, it is about what this connection wakes up inside them. And that unfinished inner work is not yours to complete for them. You cannot love someone through their healing in place of them. You cannot rescue them into readiness. No matter how clearly you can see what they need, no matter how much love you are willing to offer, that path belongs to them. But here is what does belong to you. You can refuse to let their fear decide your value. You can refuse to turn their hesitation into proof that something is missing in you. You can carry yourself with such steadiness, such self-respect, and such warm inner strength that if they do move through what has been blocking them, what they meet is not a version of you worn thin by waiting, not someone empty from longing, not someone desperate for validation, but someone full, someone grounded, someone standing in their own light. Do not miss this point. That is power, quiet power, and it changes everything about how the story moves from here. Now imagine something with me for a moment. Picture a morning that may be closer than you think. You wake up and the first thing you notice is that the heaviness is gone. That old weight in your chest, the one you carried for so long that it almost started to feel normal, is no longer there. Not because you stopped caring, not because your feelings disappeared, not because you forced yourself into distance. It is gone because the love finally has somewhere to rest, because what was unresolved is now clear, because what was meant to become real has become real. Imagine turning and seeing this person clearly. And for the first time, or maybe the first time in a very long while, you do not see hesitation in their eyes. You do not see that split inside them, that guarded look of someone who is physically present but emotionally half hidden. Instead, you see peace, the quiet peace of someone who has made a full choice, someone who is not managing their feelings anymore, not holding part of themselves back, not second-guessing every step, just there, fully there. Imagine what it would feel like to have a love that does not wake you at 2 in the morning with anxiety, a love that does not make you replay every word, every silence, every detail, trying to solve a mystery that keeps hurting you. A love where your nervous system can finally rest, where you are not always preparing for disappointment, not scanning for signals, not bracing for uncertainty. A love where the question of whether you are enough no longer lives in the room at all, not because you convinced someone of your worth, but because you are with someone for whom your worth was clear from the start. Someone who sees all of you, the bright parts, the tired parts, the healing parts, the unfinished parts, and stays, not despite them, because of the truth of who you are. That kind of love exists. Do not let the pain of the middle make you doubt that. That future is not built by 2 people showing up to each other, still expecting the other person to fix what life broke in them. It is built by 2 people doing enough of their own inner work that they can finally meet each other as they are. That is what may be forming right now, even inside the uncertainty, even inside the waiting, even inside this hard season you wish would end. Every day that you choose to care for yourself instead of sinking into fear, you are laying part of that foundation. Every day that you trust what you cannot yet fully see, you are laying part of that foundation. Every day you move toward becoming more whole, rather than more anxious, more desperate, or more lost, you are preparing for the version of love that can actually stay. So do not let the hardness of this season fool you into thinking the ending is not real. The middle is always the hardest part. It is the place where everything feels unclear, where you do not yet know what is forming, where your faith gets tested because you cannot see the final shape. But the middle is not forever. It moves, it changes, it ends. And when it does, what remains is not the confusion. What remains is what was strong enough to survive becoming. So if you are tired, I understand. If you have cried over this more times than you can count, I understand. If part of you wants to give up just so the ache will stop, I understand that too. But before you walk away from your own heart, ask yourself one thing. Is this chapter asking you to chase harder, or is it asking you to return to yourself more deeply than ever before? Because those are not the same thing, and one of them will finally set you free. This next part matters more than you know, so do not skip it in your mind. Choosing yourself is not losing love. Often, it is the very thing that teaches love where to find you. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken in some special way that made this journey harder for you than it should have been. You are not someone who keeps missing what everyone else seems to find with ease. You are in the center of a real transformation, and real transformation rarely feels gentle while it is happening. This story is not ending, it is still becoming. Some of the most meaningful parts are still ahead of you, and they are being shaped right now in the quiet choices you make when nobody sees. Every time you choose healing instead of fear, the story changes. Every time you offer yourself even a little of the kindness you have so freely given to others, the story changes. Every time you look at your own life and decide, calmly and firmly, that you deserve the same love you have been willing to pour into someone else, the story changes. So keep going. Not because it has been easy, it has not. Not because everything makes sense already, it does not. Keep going because what is truly yours is not fragile. It is not something fear can steal forever. It is not something distance can erase if it is real. What belongs in your life can take time. Yes, it can move through silence, confusion, bad timing, and unfinished healing. But if it is meant for you, none of those things will be the final word. So keep your heart open, but keep your feet under you. Keep your love honest, but keep your life whole. Keep caring, but do not abandon yourself in the process. Because the love you want is not asking you to disappear, it is asking you to become. And when you do, when you finally stand in your own fullness instead of waiting in your own doubt, everything begins to change. maybe quietly, maybe slowly, but truly. And when that day comes, you will understand that none of this was empty, none of this was wasted. It was leading you here, to the version of you who is ready to receive what once only lived in hope.